I got involved with reading issues when I realized that specifically my child with dyslexia wasn't being taught properly and didn't have a sound phonics instruction occurring in her classroom in tier one. And that grew into a greater understanding that not many children are getting solid phonics instruction or instruction based on the science of how brains learn how to read in their tier one classrooms.
I became involved with reading issues initially as a therapist, providing support for students with diverse learning needs and literacy in the school systems, but then more directly with my own child when she was struggling and trying to get her identified and diagnosed with dyslexia and pleading for the intervention and the support that she needed in class, and really realizing that she wasn't the problem. It was the system was broken, and what were we going to do about it? I think the largest obstacle that I've encountered or we've encountered in this literacy effort is people's innate resistance to change, especially our teachers who had this very strong held belief that what they were doing was right, and right by students, when in fact, what cognitive research and the science of reading teaches us is that the balanced literacy that so many were doing was actually harming many children, especially those that had diverse learning needs. So that reconciliation that we have seen teachers have to kind of go through, that grieving process, has been an obstacle. And then at district leadership levels, recognizing that what they were sold by publishers or companies as a whole may not have been the truth, and they went along with it.
The biggest obstacle to fixing the system is that it's a very large, diverse system with lots of different moving parts and lots of different players who need to have their understanding of change. It can be for many of them emotional, and so there's innate resistance in that. And there's a lot of resistance, just coming to the realization that maybe what you have been doing didn't align with the science. And maybe that's no fault of your own. But as a system, the system has failed kids. And so we need to work together to change it. And that has been a huge obstacle because it's a really big system. So there have been a lot of parents who have supported us and been involved in this change all along the way. And then there have been parents who've kind of come alongside us as they have learned what was happening in the classroom, and they have either known about the science of reading and structured literacy and what instruction should look like in the classroom, or they learned via sold a story, and just a lot of the different media outlets that have brought so much attention to the science of reading. And so those parents have really come alongside us and sort of fueled our mission. We also have a lot of teachers who have been on this journey with us from the beginning. And really, Katy Literacy was founded out of a collaboration between parents and teachers who wanted to begin the process of invoking change towards the science of reading for our students.
Katy parents have can be very proudful about belonging and being affiliated with Katy ISD as a whole. It is a great district, is one of the top in the state. And I think a lot of parents have blind trust or have held blind trust because what could be going wrong in a district that's rated by the state as doing so many amazing things. And it's not really until a parent becomes aware that their child is struggling that you kind of recognize that there may be some things that are not always so perfect going on. So over time, I think we were initially met largely with some skepticism that perhaps we were just squeaky because our own kids couldn't read. But once others were feeling the pain and seeing the data that was being shared and attending and joining in, it was much less of an obstacle. A Texas reading policy would include a mechanism for strict accountability. I think that one of the biggest things that I've recognized through this journey with my own child and together with Katy Literacy is that there are federal and state legal requirements, whether it's ESSA or IDEA, that apply to both the general and special education classroom and student, that should have been enough to prevent these areas. And I'm going to go so far as saying instructional malpractice, that balanced literacy was happening in the classroom, should have been enough to make that not be a thing. But in fact, it was. And I think that improving a mechanism of oversight and accountability for all, whether it's the publisher, to the state, to superintendents, to boards, down to the campus level with principals and teachers. What that looks like, I don't exactly know, but I know it requires a lot more money and a lot more time. So I think until that happens, we have many of the legal requirements in place, just not a way to enforce and make sure that they're actually being done.
If I could design a reading policy for Texas, it would include strict oversight of the products that are delivered in classrooms, to ensure that they include evidence-based instruction that is aligned with the science of reading.